Welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the recovery plug. What's going on? I hope you guys are doing great. I know my day is going just fine. Another, great day in recovery, another great day in spirituality, another great day to be alive. Yes, it is. Alrighty, so without any further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ring us in to get that energy levels, right where it needs to be so that we can relay a message today that is going to help somebody. You know what I mean? That's going to give that person that step to the right, path. Maybe you're searching for something that you're stuck with today, and setting that setting a good foundation of energy to start whatever task that you're going to start is always key, I think, to getting that answer right. So, but without any further ado, I'm going to ring us in. If you'd give me just a moment. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Eternal Buddha Shakyamuni, please guide us. Let these energies that are there to guide us, to help us, to ground us, to allow us to lift that cap off of that mental thought process so that we're able to seek, to find, to attach ourselves to that energy so that it moves us where it needs to move us, so that it's able to bring us clarity. Thank you. Alrighty, so now that we got the mood right, the tone right, the energy levels in the right direction, what I want to do today is I got a few things that I want to talk about, and it's all going to circle around the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. What I want to do is I'm going to talk to you about both of those things and kind of how I believe they help in a path of recovery, how it has helped my life and my path of spirituality. And one of the things that this little thing that I want to do for you is I want to give you the Sanskrit terms for the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path, because these things derive from Sanskrit terms. When they were first brought about, they were in that language. And throughout the years of translation and finally getting to the West and translating so that we here in the West understand it is it's just kind of cool. I thought to give you the terms in Sanskrit so that maybe it'll help you in understanding the teachings, the sutras, when you're practicing, when you're indulging in that type of stuff. It kind of, to me, it helps me understand, parables and teachings when I read them, and whether it's whatever I'm reading, whether it's from the Threefold Lotus Sutra or from the Diamond Sutra, from the Heart Sutra, whatever it is that I'm reading at that particular time, these terms come up. You know what I mean? So it's just nice to understand them, to know them, and to kind of it gives you that little bell that it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. I understand that this is what this means because of the Sanskrit term, right? So anyway, what I'm going to do is let me get my glasses on because I got to read some things here. Wrong glasses. These glasses. Okay, so again, the Four Noble Truths, and the Four Noble Truths are, first of all, number one is that all existence entails suffering, right? And I'm going to give you the definition of the Four Noble Truths from the Sanskrit Shambhalan dictionary, so that we can kind of because that's what we're kind of getting to, that root of the meanings, right? And so the first noble truth of the Four Noble Truths is that all existence entails suffering. Now, suffering is translated to dukkha in Sanskrit. Now, wherever you see dukkha, that means it's talking about suffering, right? Now, the second noble truth is that suffering is caused by ignorance, which gives rise to craving and illusion. Now, the definition of craving is trishna in Sanskrit. So that brings up the second noble truth in Sanskrit it would be interpreted as trishna. So now we have the first noble truth, dukkha, the second noble truth, trishna, which is, again, thirst, craving, that sort of thing. Now, the third noble truth is that there is an end to suffering, and this state of no suffering is called nirvana. Now, nirvana, which would be interpreted as the third noble truth, which is letting go, not clinging, it's the cessation of suffering. And so we'll now nirvana is attained through the practice of the Eightfold Path. Now, this is one of the fundamental doctrines of all forms of Buddhism, and was the content of the first sermon preached by the Buddha at Deer Park, right? It is really goes deep to the. I just find it really fascinating that they're talking about these things that help you alleviate suffering. You know, this is something that's being taught 2,600 years ago that fits really well with recovery in today's world. You know what I'm saying? Really, really cool stuff. And as we know, as a person who has dealt with addiction for many, many years, who is an addict. I mean, I claim myself as an addict, and as a person that lives with trauma, lives with the suffering, right? But because I allow myself to be teachable in the fact that I understand the Four Noble Truths as dukkha, trishna, nirvana, and the last one, which is maraga meaning a path, which in turn there means that there's a path to the cessation of suffering, and that is, in Buddha's context, would be the Eightfold Path. In a recovery context, would be a 12-step program. You know what I mean? There's in a recovery dharma standpoint would be that there's that the Eightfold Path to this alleviation of suffering, man, of the addiction, of the trauma, of whatever it is that's got you bound down to this cyclical world of suffering, right? And for many of us, it's many different things. You know what I mean? I myself dealt with the addiction, with childhood trauma, with PTSDs, with grief, suicidal thoughts, all those types of things. You know what I mean? And to have this path that you can lean on, that gives you this clarity, to me is just awesome. You know what I mean? And for myself and in my own life is the Eightfold Path. You know what I mean? Which I correlate really well with the 12-step program of whatever it is that whatever it is that I've done many of them. You know what I mean? I've done the Alcoholic Anonymous 12-step program. I do the Narcotics Anonymous program, the Dharma Recovery program. So you know, it is just to kind of give you a little comparison. In this book here, I'm going to show it to you. This is Alcoholics Anonymous book, and this book here is the Narcotics Anonymous book, the NA book. And these two books are really, it's a path, just like the Eightfold Path. You know what I'm saying? And in the Narcotics Anonymous, or in the Alcoholics Anonymous books, there's a part in here that says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in our affairs, in our daily affairs. Now, if you look at the Narcotics Anonymous book, there's a part in here that says, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in our affairs. Now, two different books, two different programs, same concept. Just like in the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths again, meaning that we understand that all existence entails suffering. Number two, we understand that suffering is caused by ignorance, which gives rise to craving and illusion. And number three, there is an end to suffering. We understand that there is an end to suffering, and this state of no suffering is called nirvana. Nirvana meaning to breathe out, to let go, not to cling. That's what you get with that. And the fourth is nirvana is attained through the forms of Buddhism, and which is nirvana is attained through the practice of the path. And the path meaning the right view. Number one, the first one is the right view. The second one is the right intention or right thinking. The third one is right speech. The fourth is right action. 5 is right living. Number 6 is right endeavor. Number 7 is right mindfulness or right memory. And 8 is right meditation. Now, when we number these things, we're not saying that these are levels, because they're not. These are things that are interdependent upon causation of whatever it is that you're doing. You know what I'm saying? In other words, if you have the right view of something, then you're going to have the right intention. You'll have the right thinking. When you have the right thinking, then you react, you speak. You're speaking with that right intention. And when you speak about doing something in the right intention, then your actions become the right action. The things that you start doing are the right action. And then you start living in that way. And then you start participating in your endeavors of whatever it is that you're doing in your life is with the right intent and the right mindfulness. meaning that you have that right intention to everything that you're doing, and knowing that whatever it is that you do, the cause and effect to that is you're being mindful to that. You know, you're being aware of that. Now you're living your life through a respondent type of way. You're responding to your life, and you're not reacting to it. Because how many times in the addiction have we, that everything we do is through reaction? You know what I'm saying? I know for myself personally, if something was going on in my life and I didn't want to deal with it, then I knew I'd go to my go-to, and I was just go, and I would go get high. You know what I mean? That was the way that was my right way of dealing with stuff in a wrong way. You know what I'm saying? But when you do that, and when your view is diverted through the second noble truth, and the third, that you understand that the suffering then brings the thirst for craving and ignorance and delusion. You know what I mean? That's the suffering, meaning whatever was bothering me made me go to the craving. So, I don't want this, I want this. I'd rather not be dealing with this, I'd rather be doing this. And then in turn there, it kept you in the cyclical world of suffering. You can't get out of it. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't have the right view. You know what I'm saying? So it is, what I want to do just real quick is just give you the definitions of these of these eightfold path, and give them to you in the Sanskrit terms, so that if you see this, you'll know what you'll have a better relation to understand things when you're reading them, when you're reading Buddhist texts or Hindu text, you know, those type of things, because they're so interconnected, that these terms, because all of those things of those texts derive from Pali and Sanskrit, which are, you know, that's where they originate from, right? And so the right view is samadriti. Now the right thinking or intention is sama sankapa. Sankapa. The right speech is samavaka. The right action is samakamanta. The right living is the sama ajiva. The right endeavor is the sama vayama. And the right memory or mindfulness is the sama sati. Sama sati, and the right meditation is the sama samadhi. And it is, to me, understanding these terms has, I know they might sound like, okay, what the heck, who cares who cares about those, or how is this going to help me in my everyday living of addiction or trauma or whatever it is that I'm going through? You know, talk to me about that. How is that going to help me? Well, here's this. Because I'm going to let you know how it has helped me in my personal recovery, in my personal journey of addiction, recovery, and spirituality. Now, I believe that being an addict and living a life with that disease, that it allows you to think a certain way, right? And anything and everything that we do in our lives is derived from someone else's thought process. Everything that you've done, that you learned, you're living your life today because of someone else's thought process. The things that you do in your life wasn't just because you automatically thought of it and you're the master of your own domain. No, you're the master of everybody else's domain. You know what I mean? You're actually not even the master. You're the puppet in everybody else's thought process, right? So, and that's for people who are like myself, who live with a disease of addiction, who live with trauma, who live with depression, who live with anxiety, who live with suicidal thoughts, who live with this addictive personality. It is not an easy thing to allow yourself to be teachable to new things. We're pretty stubborn in the things that we do as addicts, I believe, and as people with a disease of that nature, and people who deal with trauma. Period. We're kind of set in our ways and our comfortability, right? And I believe that the way to break those walls down, to be teachable, to learn a new way of thinking, is by a path. And a path can be a 12-step program. A path can be a Buddhist, a spiritual endeavor. Whatever it is that you are attracted to in your spiritual connection with whatever your higher power is going to be, is okay. So long that you follow the proven method of the path. You know what I'm saying? That's why in both of those books, the AA and the NA book, it says, rarely have we seen a person fail who followed the path. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a proven method. It's a proven method. If you do this on a consistent basis, you're going to get these results, right? And it's the same thing in the Buddhist, in a Buddhist standpoint, in the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, that you understand that there's this suffering, right? And you understand that there's a way to live with the suffering, which is in the Eightfold Path. Doesn't mean that you get rid of the suffering by any means. That's not going to happen. The suffering's always going to be there. But instead of reacting to the suffering now, you're living in a responded way to the suffering. You're responding to those feelings of aversion, the feeling of clinginess, the feeling of ignorance, those types of things. It's like when you have control, you feel like you're grounded. You feel like okay, this is comfortable for me because I can control this. So you think, right? And that's how I thought. And to be honest with you, it's like, I started thinking, I was like, man, really, we have no control over a whole lot, right? But when I started applying the teachings of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, in understanding that the elements or attributes of which every human being is comprised of, that we have this body with form, right? We're receptively, we're receptive to the sensations and feelings and the conception and the volition or the various mental activities, the consciousness, the union of all of those things, from the first part of thinking about, okay, the suffering, why am I suffering here? And why am I stuck in this suffering? Why isn't anything getting better for me? And why do I continue to do these things? And I can remember at first, I loved to get high. You know what I mean? People would ask me, well, I said, I'm not addicted. I just like to do it. You know what I mean? It's just I like getting, I like the feeling. I like what I'm, that's why I do it. I don't do it for any other reason. But understanding that was just a facade of way of thinking, right? That, okay, I'm lying to myself. Because when you allow yourself to get involved with the suffering is when things start happening. And the only way to do that is through the path, whatever path it is that you're taking, because it allows you, it makes you, in a sense, have to deal with it. It makes you have to see the suffering eye to eye and confront it. The only way, I believe this is just my personal opinion, that the only way to find or to alleviate the suffering is in the suffering. You know what I mean? Only you know why you're at this addictive state, or you're at this state of depression, or the state of anxiety. Only you know that. You know what I mean? No one else knows why you're dealing with that. And because you know, now you know the answer of how to alleviate that. You know what I'm saying? And you've always known this because you've always had that Buddha nature in you. You've always had that wholesomeness of you. That's what gives you that that's what gives you that advantage to understanding that there's a better way to live than through the suffering, right? There's a way to live with the suffering, so that the suffering is not dictating your next move. And that way is through the path, through the 12-step program, whatever it is, through the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, through the 10 Commandments, whatever it is that you want to put in that blank spot there. You know what I'm saying? Now, I find it really intriguing that this concept was adopted, or not adopted, but originated from how the Buddha Shakyamuni understood the world. And the way he understood the world is what he went out and tried to teach people and shared with the disciples and that sort of thing. And that is what we get today. You know what I mean? That's what we get from reading the Threefold Lotus Sutra and from following the path, you know what I mean, of something that somebody already did and plowed the path for us to this way of living that works, that alleviates the suffering, that gets you away from that mental thought process, that allows you to change your mental thought process. You know what I mean? And I believe that is the key, one of the key things to for me anyway, the key thing for me in my life of recovery and spirituality was the mental transformation. The mental transformation and the consistency of applying the path to my everyday life. Every single thing that I do in my life today is derived and maneuvered and led through the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. And it has done wonders for my recovery, for my spirituality, for my health, for my life. And if I could interpret this in a way so that it meets you your life, because everybody has different capacities of their mental thought process because of the suffering that they're going through. You know what I mean? Everybody is different, and my way may not be, you may not see it that way because of where you're at in your life. But because you're hearing something like this, it's a seed. It's a path. And it's a path that you can take that can open up another path. You know what I'm saying? I landed on this path because I was on this path. You know what I mean? I landed in a treatment center that showed me this path of a 12-step program in the form of the AA book, which in turn there I went to meetings and then discovered this other path that was directed to people who were addicted to drugs, which was my thing. I didn't drink. I was addicted to drugs. I never really, I drank a little bit, but that was years ago. You know what I mean? I wasn't an alcoholic. I was a drug addict. And it got me to, because of the Alcoholics Anonymous book, because of that path, it allowed me to find the other path of Narcotics Anonymous. And because Narcotics Anonymous, it allowed me to find the path of the Dharma recovery, which led me to find this practice of Buddhism, which I'm very, very grateful for, and because it works for me. It works very well with my life, with my suffering, and it interprets everything in a way that I can understand it, and it allows me to not have a cap to my mental thought process. That I know that everything that I'm doing, there's more to come, there's more to come, there's more to come, there's more to come. It never stops. It's a process, never-ending process. That's why it works, because it keeps you in that move, that way of moving, that way of thinking. You know what I'm saying? There's no cap to that. That's why I believe it works for me. You know what I'm saying? And when you do that, because it derives from dealing with suffering, is that something that you're always going to deal with in your life. Suffering never goes away, because there's different degrees, different levels of suffering. There's suffering of major trauma, right? But there's also minor, like really minute things that you don't even think about of that you're suffering. Like sitting down. You know what I'm saying? You're sitting down, you had a long day, now you sit down in your recliner, oh, now this is good, I feel good. But after a while, you start getting uncomfortable sitting. So that's the suffering. So you get up and you do something else. So the cycle keeps going, you know what I'm saying? You suffer because you're hungry, so you eat something until you can't eat no more. So now you stop, now you're good. You're not suffering. But then you get this stomach ache because you ate too much, so there you go, suffering. You know what I mean? So it's just this whole world that never stops. You know what I mean? But because you have this understanding of that in the Four Noble Truths, and you have this eightfold path that allows you to deal with the suffering so that you can live your life productively and instill things that you can substitute for all of those bad reactions. You know what I'm saying? Because now, because of the Dharma, because of my studying, because of the things that I do throughout my daily life, and the practicing this way, and practicing and of really taking that vow, because I believe that when you start putting a spiritual practice to your recovery and putting recovery in your life, you're doing a vow. You're vowing to yourself that I'm going to do this to so that I don't have to live this way. So that I can alleviate this suffering. You know what I mean? I can alleviate this depression. I can alleviate this anxiety. I can alleviate this addiction. You know what I mean? That's taking a vow in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Because you're vowing to do this path that's going to allow you to live a better life. And I believe that it's just amazing how the cause and effect of a path works in a life. Because not only does it start helping you in your life of recovery, but it helps you in the life of spirituality, and it helps you in your everyday, daily grind. You know what I'm saying? Everything that I do in my life today, I do it with that right view. Because I put everything in the Eightfold Path type of way. I go to work with the right view, the right intention, the right speech, the right action, the right living, the right endeavor, the right mindfulness, the right meditation, because even while I'm at work, I'm meditating. Even while I'm doing this video, am I putting those Eightfold Paths in use in some way, shape, or form? You know what I'm saying? Now, I just, I wanted that's what I wanted to bring that out, and just kind of, when I was talking about the vow, the vow is talking about precepts, basically. You know what I mean? And the precepts in Buddhism, the 5 precepts is, number 1, that I undertake the precept from killing living beings. In other words, you refrain from doing harm, taking life or of any sense, human, animals, whatever. Now, the second precept is that I undertake the precept to refrain from taking what is not given. In other words, not taking things that don't belong to you. You know what I mean? Because I know in the world of addiction, I did a lot of that. You know what I mean? And also, the third is I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct, and that is any and to not take to not do that type of pleasure of the body to the extreme. I know in the addiction, that was one of the big things, you know what I mean? Is that you do a lot of stuff that you shouldn't be doing. And you're not caring about the other sex or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It kind of gets deep, but, the fourth is I undertake the precept to refrain from false speech. I really like that one because that means that you're not lying, you're not, sugarcoating stuff, you're coming out and doing. That's one of the things I love about doing the videos is that I'm giving you raw feed of my suffering, of how I deal with things and the things that I learn, right? And the last one is to refrain from intoxicating drinks and drugs that lead to carelessness. And this is intoxicating yourself of anything that gives you, this is going to be overeating or being going on a shopping spree or whatever it is that you want to put in place, the intoxication, that toxic thing that keeps you in that cyclical world, right? And so you're it's not that you're getting rid of all of those things at once. It's that you're working on this on the daily basis, on the consistent basis. You're taking a vow to adhere to those precepts in any and everything that you do in your life. And that's what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And it's been working. You know what I'm saying? I'm living proof that it's working. And yeah, so it's really cool stuff, man. I just and for me personally, it's also taking refuge in the Buddha, in Sanskrit, it's Buddhanam Saranam Gacchami, Dharma, which is Dahanam Saranam Gacchami, and Sangha, which is Sangha Saranam Gacchami. Buddhanam Saranam Gacchami, meaning I go to the Buddha for refuge. Dahanam Saranam Gacchami means I go to the Dharma for refuge. And Sangham Saranam Gacchami is I go to the Sangha for refuge. Really like that last one, because the last one is that you're not doing this alone. The Sangha means community. In other words, you're involving yourself in a spiritual path with, if you go to a church, if you go to a Dharma center or a Buddhist temple, or you're going to meetings, that's your Sangha. You know what I'm saying? If you have a home group, that's your Sangha. People, the little group of friends that's if you have friends in recovery that are helping you, that's your Sangha. You know what I'm saying? Staying connected to that is what's going to keep you from reverting back to the old ways, right? That's just one of the things that you do. And by living the way of the path, it allows you to always have that on your mind. You know what I mean? It polishes up that keen introspective awareness of your actions of your daily life. So anyway, that's I guess that's all I got for you today, man. I hope that you guys enjoyed the lesson, the just a little breakdown of the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, a little bit of Sanskrit history there, of the terminology that you could use. It's things that have helped me. You know what I'm saying? Everything that I talk to you about are things that are helping me in my personal recovery, my personal spirituality path and journey. So I believe that if it helps me, that it in turn there can help somebody else, right? So again, man, at this time, if you do it, please hit that subscribe button. You know, give me a go like, go subscribe. Just know that, please share the channel. Just know that when you do share the channel, that you're going to be helping out another homeless person, another veteran, another person dealing with addiction, drug addiction, alcoholism, suicidal thoughts, childhood trauma, just grief, depression, anxiety, all of those types of things, man. Because here's one thing that I could tell you is that I've dealt with all of those things in my life. And I also know that I know a way out. And my way out can be your way out, possibly. And if not, you can maybe adopt some of the things. But yeah, so that's why I like sharing these things, you know what I'm saying? But at any rate, yeah, thank you for joining me, man. Thank you for giving me the donation of your time, of you just being here and listening and sharing the channel. And hopefully that you found something today, something resonated with you today. So I guess without further ado, I'm gonna ring us out, and yeah, we'll call it a day, man. So give me just a second. Okay. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Eternal Buddha Shakyamuni, thank you for guiding us. Thank you for allowing the energies to resonate, to ground us, to have us learn something today. Thank you very much for the donation of everyone listening today. Thank you for allowing me to breathe this air so that I can just breathe these words of encouragement, these words of wisdom, these words of teaching, these words of trial and tribulation, so that other people can benefit as we do, and that we continue to work on this Bodhisattva path. Again, thank you for everybody for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I guess until the next time, When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.